How to add value in commercial real estate. This could be one of the most profitable things you do if you do it right. In this episode, we're going to talk about how renovations could completely increase your return on investment. And then I'm going to share with you how I recently purchased a building, renegotiated the leases, and doubled the building in value. And at the end, I'm going to share with you some additional ways that you could bring in more money to the bottom line on your properties. So this is my primary focus. This is actually what I focus most of my time on. This is what I would say I'm the best at. Repurposing, repositioning assets that really need it and finding the hidden value inside of them, especially in commercial real estate. So the reason why I like this so much is there's typically what I find is that commercial real estate people are different than residential. So I've taken the residential pieces that I've learned and taken it into commercial real estate. What do I mean by that? Gosh, a lot of these buildings I look at, they're old, they're tired. What they call it is deferred maintenance, meaning basically they've neglected the property. What do I see? I see opportunity. Nobody wants to rent there. It's one of the first questions I always ask myself, is this a property I would want to rent from if I was the owner? 9 times out of 10, when I'm buying the property, if not 10 out of 10, the answer is no. I'm buying a property that is somewhat in distress, maybe not financially, but nobody wants to be there. Take advantage of these opportunities for something that just needs a facelift. For example, I want to go through a couple things with you, why I like commercial so much. In residential, you have to go through and you got to do things on the inside and the outside. Typically more stuff in the inside than the outside. Oftentimes on commercial, when I'm buying stuff, think about a warehouse. Really, it's just 4 walls, right? Inside, just a basic warehouse. People don't really care, but the facade, maybe they care about. Typically, if I'm renting maybe office space, what do I have on residential that I don't have on commercial? I have all these kitchens. I have higher end things that I need to do. In commercial, I just need to give people 4 walls. For example, if I'm doing executive suites, they don't all need water in there. They don't all need a bathroom and they don't all need a kitchen. They may just need 4 walls and a shared restroom. So when looking at it, I have less things to repair at the end of the day. That means less maintenance, less rehab. It also means I get to focus the money on the curb appeal. Curb appeal is huge. Like I mentioned earlier, is this a place that I want to rent? If the answer is no, that's a problem. Let's fix that problem and make it a place that I would like to rent. I spend more of my money investing on the exterior of the property to make sure people want to actually work there than I do on the interior. It could be things such as a facelift as far as maybe doing stucco on the exterior, maybe metal siding, landscaping for sure, exterior signage and lights. This is where I get my most bang for my buck. When I put money on the exterior of the building, giving it curb appeal, when I market that property, people want to rent from us, and we often have wait lists for a suite. Another word for renovations is TIs, or tenant improvements. Tenant improvements are huge in commercial real estate. Here's the nice thing. You can negotiate and you could pay them or have them pay them. It's okay. I oftentimes give people tenant improvement money for them to go through and do the TIs themselves. And so that way they're improving your property and you get to keep those improvements when it's all done. Maybe someone brings in and does a restaurant inside your building. If that's the case, typically you get to keep those things when the lease expires. Another area I like to find value is I ask myself, is this the highest and best use currently of what the property is being used for? This is something that is just a simple question, but maybe it's not. Maybe you're taking or can take an office and do executive suites with it. Maybe it's currently a hotel or a motel and you're going to turn it into apartments. That could go for the same thing if it's an office and you're going to convert that into multifamily. There's all sorts of ways to look at the property. You just have to figure out or look at what's going on in your market and ask yourself, is this the highest and best use? Also, what's the money that I need to put into it versus my return that I'm going to get? Some call it forced value, but this is what you can do to essentially get more money out of that property is by simply changing the use. And here's the crazy thing is sometimes the use is already there. You just have to look into what the zoning is on that particular property. Another value that you could find is actually in expenses. Sometimes people have outdated things like air conditioning units. Maybe things are inefficient. If you could find those inefficiencies, and maybe it's just simply management and other monthly expenses, that you could find ways to save money, and in doing so, you increase your bottom line. Things to look at is maybe the property management company that you're using currently. Maybe you take that management on yourself. If you can and you have the tolerance for it, I would say do it. I manage my own. It's up to you to do yours. I say everybody should do it for at least a period of time. Maintenance. How much are they paying for the maintenance around the property? Oftentimes I end up getting additional bids, or I'll bring in my own maintenance company. If you're buying a multifamily that has washer and dryers, maybe there's a cheaper alternative to the company that they're currently using. These are things that you just need to pay attention to. I would evaluate all of them and figure out if it's a good deal or if you could do better. If you could do better, bring those things in. We're out with the old, in with the new. Let's increase your bottom line. I love commercial real estate. I talk about this all the time. If you like the content that I'm bringing in commercial real estate, subscribe below, and I'm going to continue to bring this information to you daily. The other thing, this is a hidden gem, and this is market adjustments. So many times people have not adjusted rents because they just got stagnant and they got complacent as landlords or as management companies. So you could have years go by where very little increase in rents have happened. So by the time they go to list the property, they could be 20, 30, 40, even 50% undervalued. So here's an example of how this worked for me recently. I bought a warehouse, and this warehouse was literally, is broken into three, but one of the units took up half of the space. What I ended up doing is negotiating seller financing. When I got the seller financing, they had two tenants. Both tenants were on month to month, but both tenants were also paying half of the rent that they should have been. They were literally in there for 10 plus years. This is how I increased the income on this property. I went to these people and simply renegotiated their leases to just under current market value to make it an incentive for them to stay and not go look elsewhere. The other thing I did is I did professional renderings on a company called 99 Designs. You could pick a different one, but I did renderings of the property. Then I posted the property, leased it up prior to even closing. So in doing all that, we did some heavy lifting in a short period of time and literally doubled the value of that property in less than 60 days. Another thing is making sure you have a good tenant mix, a variety. It also depends on the asset that you're buying. Sometimes I do medical centers, and you should try to stick with just medical tenants in there. It's gonna make it easier for you to refinance, and it's gonna make it easier for you to sell. So in the tenant mix, you wanna make sure, like, sometimes you don't want completely opposite tenants next to each other. Like, for example, maybe you're doing executive suites and you have a law office next to a hair salon. Probably not the best to mix those two. So what I try to do is make sure that we have those businesses complementary in there. Maybe it's a Botox or something like that with a hairdresser and something else that's more spa-like, if that makes sense. And we'll put the attorney in with other types of professionals that fit that category. Just like when we buy medical, we want to try to primarily make that facility all medical or medical related. You could go ahead and add income producing ideas or things to your property as well. If you have covered parking or parking in general, and you have an abundance of it, you could do, or you can rent those parking stalls to people on a monthly basis. You also have areas that you could rent out, such as the roof. Maybe you could do a sign or signage on your building, do some marketing for another company. People will pay you if you have a nice wall that has a lot of exposure to traffic, things like this. You got to look at the property and figure, is there any other way that I can monetize this building than its current use? Also, if you have a multifamily unit, maybe you don't have washer and dryers. So you want to make sure that you have coin operated washer and dryers or card operated washer and dryers as well to monetize that property. If you like this video, I think you're going to love the next video of how to find tenants for your commercial real estate.